Good evening, everyone. This is Steve Lookner with some breaking news from Right Side Broadcasting. There has been another. This is not a joke. This is not an error. There has been another U.S. Navy destroyer collision with a civilian vessel. I'm not kidding you. This has just been reported in the last hour or so by the U.S. Navy. Look, here's an AP report on it. Before I give that to you, I got to do my customary check and make sure you can hear me. An error. All right, you can hear me. Wonderful. So look, it's the USS John McCain. This happened outside of Singapore. So look, U.S. Navy destroyer and merchant ship collide near Singapore. It was just 2 months ago when the USS Fitzgerald had a collision and with a tanker ship, and a number of U.S. sailors died in that collision. And let's read about what happened tonight first, and then we'll talk about that. So this article from the AP says a U.S. Navy guided missile destroyer has collided with a merchant ship in waters east of Singapore and the Straits of Malacca. The Navy's 7th Fleet says that the USS John McCain sustained damage on its port from the collision with the Alnick MC on Monday at 5:24 a.m. Search and rescue efforts were underway in coordination with local authorities. There were no initial reports of injuries, but search and rescue efforts are underway, which suggests, so we have damage caused to the destroyer by a civilian vessel and search and rescue efforts underway. This is not sounding good. It is the second collision involving a Navy ship in the Pacific in 2 months. 7 soldiers died in June when the USS Fitzgerald and a container ship hit each other in waters off Japan. The Japan-based 7th Fleet said the McCain was heading to Singapore for a routine port visit. So this is very worrying, both in terms of worrying for the sailors on that ship, but also the state of the Navy, that another crash like this could happen so soon. Just days after it was announced that they were going to suspend, I believe, or let go or suspend, I got to look this up, several people who were in charge of that last ship, the USS Fitzgerald. So this is really a problem. This looks like a big problem. I mean, I don't know, but it seems to me, one of these ships having the collision like that is a problem, an accidental collision, but 2 in 2 months in the same region. Now let's look. This says that the ship it hit was the Alnick MC. Let's see if we can see where that is. Let's see if we can look up the Alnick MC and get a picture of it to get a feel for what the ship was that had a collision with this Navy destroyer. Here we go. It's a chemical tanker. It's an oil chemical tanker. Oh my gosh. How about it? Wow, that's incredible. So that's the ship. This is the ship that hit. Right here, this is the Alnick MC. This is an oil chemical tanker. It's flying under what flag? A Liberia flag. But again, it's not like, this is not a ship that's kind of gonna come out of nowhere, presumably. This giant tanker. So this is the ship. This tanker that collided with the U.S. destroyer. It boggles my mind. How can we have because the last one with the Fitzgerald, it collided with a giant container ship. This tanker, look at the facts. It is gross tonnage 30,040 tons, length overall 183 meters. So by my reckoning, that's about, it's over 500 feet long. It's not going to come out of nowhere. Wow, that's amazing to me. It is just amazing. This is the ship that the U.S. destroyer collided with. So, it's just incredible. I didn't even know this until I looked it up right now, that this was the ship that collided with this destroyer. So I'm going to try to get you the latest information on this, see if there's any updates on this collision between the U.S. Navy destroyer, Is it to John S. McCain and this ship, the Alnick MC. And I also want to show you, it was supposedly off the coast of Singapore. Oh, wow. So there's a satellite position for this ship. Look, position via satellite. You can see it in the corner. Look at the left corner. If you see the left corner, it says it's off the coast of Singapore. Let's show it on the live map. Let's see if we can find it. I'm going to open up this map here and see what we get. So will we get a map that I can... Sorry, guys, the map is loading. Hopefully it'll work. If it doesn't, we will go to something else. How about the old reload trick? Let me try that, see if that works any better. Okay, it's loading, it's thinking. Okay, here's the Alnic MC. All right. Wow. Okay, this is wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so this is good in that we have a nice picture of it for you guys, which is what I wanted to get for you. So if you look here, let me get rid of this box. Oops, now I'm messing everything up, guys. Hold on one second. No. One more second. Let me close this. Here we go. That's what I wanted to do. Now I think the Alnic MC, all right, there it is. There's the Alnic MC. You can see where it's identified. That's where it is right now, and it's off the coast of Malaysia. Let me zoom out a little more and see if I can get a better picture of this. So basically, it looks like the Alnic MC is, if I can show you here, it's kind of down where it's at the bottom right corner of Malaysia. It's there at the lower right corner of Malaysia. That's what we're looking at, where this accident happened, seemingly, because that's where the ship that it ran into is now. I wonder if you look up USS John McCain, if we get anything here. No? Sorry, that wasn't good. I didn't spell it right. Nope, it's not there. Anyways, well, let's look up Alnic MC one more time. Alnic MC, that's the ship it collided with. Let's see what the map looks like here. All right, that's the ship. All right, that's the ship it collided with. All right, let me try to get you some more information. So let's sum up for people who just joined the stream. Okay, so tonight we got a report just in the last hour from the U.S. Navy that the ship over my shoulder, the USS, the guided missile destroyer, the USS John McCain, collided with, believe it or not, this ship, this 500 somewhat long tanker. How many feet long is it, I wonder? It's 183 meters is... It's 600 feet long. It's 600 feet long. So the ship collided, the U.S. Navy destroyer collided with this 600-foot long oil tanker, and it's off near Singapore this happened. And there's damage to the port side of the U.S. destroyer, and there's a search and rescue operation going on. And this is the second collision between a U.S. destroyer and a giant tanker. Well, the other one I think was a container ship, but a giant ship in the Pacific region in 2 months. All right, let me see if I can get you some more information on this. If you guys have comments on this, I'd love to hear them after I get get an update on what's going on with this. After I get the latest news about what's going on with this that I can find. If you have any comments on this, if anybody was in the Navy or something and has any thoughts on why this might have happened again, give me a shout on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. This is astounding. I am astounded. I am not exaggerating. I can honestly say I am astounded right now at this. Just incredible. All right, let me see. And I don't think, by the way, last I checked... this is good. This is good news. Good news. We have good news. I mean, it's not great news, but that it's happened. But Steve Herman says, update, USS John McCain currently sailing under its own power and heading to port. Now, what is this article here? Let's see. Sailing under its own power and heading to port. Okay. This is from the Commander 7th Fleet. Guided missile destroyer USS John McCain was involved in a collision with the merchant vessel Alnic MC while underway east of the Straits of Malacca in Singapore on August 21st. The collision was reported at 6:24 a.m. Japan Standard Time while the ship was transiting to a routine port visit in Singapore. The ship is currently sailing under its own power and heading to port. Search and rescue efforts are underway in coordination with local authorities, in addition to tugboats out of Singapore, the Republic of Singapore, blah, 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 blah. Initial reports indicate John S. McCain sustained damage to her port side aft. The extent of damage and personnel injuries is being determined. So this is kind of confusing because it's saying the ship got hit, it suffered damage, it's heading to port, but there's search and rescue going on, and the personnel injuries extent is being determined. So it sounds like they don't know if people are injured or missing, but they're sailing the ship back to port. Now, maybe the ship is so damaged they want to get it back to port as soon as possible. But you'd think that the ship might kind of hang out while they're looking for people or dealing with injuries or search and rescue. So I don't know. I am not in the Navy. I don't know about this. But to me, it does seem a bit odd that the ship is sailing back to port while the search and rescue mission is going on. Now, maybe the search and rescue is just for the people on the other ship, but I don't know. I mean, it sounds kind of bad to me. It doesn't sound great that they're sailing back to port, but there's still this search and rescue going on. And also, look, they're saying the U.S. Navy, this is a U.S. Navy site, 7th Fleet Commander is saying the incident, the extent of damage and personnel injuries is being determined. So they don't even know. I mean, if no one got hurt, you'd like to think they could just say, well, no one's got hurt, we're sending back. That's not what's happening right now. We have this saying the extent of personnel injuries and damage is being determined, and that there's a search and rescue operation going on. And look at what it says. In addition to tugboats out of Singapore, the Republic of Singapore Navy ship RSS Gallant, RSN helicopters, and police Coast Guard vessel Basking Shark 55 are currently in the area to render assistance. That is, one ship, two ships, and tugboats, and helicopters. So this looks like a significant collision if that you need that much help and there's a search and rescue going on. This is very concerning. Let me see if I can get you any more updated information on this collision tonight. Just amazing that this is happening. Just really crazy. Let me see if I can find any more updates here. So I'll keep looking. I'm going to get to your comments right now. We are covering... Oh, there's a little bit of an issue here, unfortunately, with the screen behind me. I'm not sure why that is. Why is that? Let's see. I would like to fix it. Let me try something, guys. Hold on a second. Let me just go full on this picture here for a sec, or this article. Give me 1 sec, guys. Let's see. So I'm going to turn one light off and see if it works. Actually, I'm going to disappear out of the screen for a second, but... Will this work if I do this? Does that work? No, that's worse. Will that work? I apologize for this, guys. We're having a little bit of an issue. Let me try one more thing to make it work, but then I'll get to your comments. Sorry about that. I didn't notice that before. I think that's a little better. I apologize. I will get that fixed after, guys. I'm sorry. We usually don't have a problem with the green screen. I'm just having a little problems with it tonight with different things going on with it. I'm sorry. It's annoying, but I don't want to stop the stream and fix it. That would be a bad thing if I did that. Although, yeah, I don't think I can fix it right now. So let's go with it. I apologize for the green screen issues, and we will fix them after. But for now, I want to get to your comments now. Yeah, it's not Badger Fool. I see. I can see the issue there. Yeah, it's an issue. I have to change something on the computer, and I can't do that without stopping the stream. So I will fix it after. Let's see here. Badger Fool says, if they were taking on water, they may have no choice but to return to port, especially if there's plenty of others responding. So he thinks maybe they're returning to port, even though there's a search and rescue going on, because maybe the ship is damaged and they have to get back there, which we were talking about earlier too. Zhank says they have to do a muster, 100% onboard personnel. If the ship is damaged, they have to leave to save the crew and use off-board ships to do it. To rescue people, I assume. Lisa H. writes in, hubby is former Navy and retired CG. He said there are many safeguards on board ships. It would be an attack or gross negligence. Let's see here. Charlie Farley says, another accident on the high seas? This is BS. BS, this is China trying to engage us at war. Meanwhile, they're crippling our Navy. That's Charlie Fraley's opinion. Zhank says, statistically, this is impossible. It's an accident. Annabelle Onion writes, sabotage? Fight Fan says, you mean another intentional ramming? So a number of you think this is intentional. This is Right Side Broadcasting. We are covering this story tonight. Incredible that this has happened. A U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS John S. McCain, which is in the picture over my shoulder, has collided with this giant 600-foot-long tanker, which I'll show you right now, right here. It's the Alnick MC. Oops, boy, I'd show it to you if I actually cut to it. It's the Alnick MC. This giant 600-foot tanker is the one that collided with the Navy ship, the U.S. Navy destroyer. The U.S. Navy destroyer sustained damage on its port side. It is heading back to port under its own power, but there is a search and rescue going on with a number of ships and helicopters involved in the search and rescue. And the U.S. Navy says they're assessing personnel injuries, the extent of them. So we're just waiting to hear more details about this. And very significantly, this is the second time in the Pacific in 2 months that a U.S. Navy destroyer has collided with a gigantic ship. A couple months ago, there was the USS Fitzgerald collision where it collided with a tanker and 7 sailors died. 7 American sailors lost their lives. No word yet on extent of injuries tonight, but this is really worrying. And I also want to show you something else. Let me find this about the people who were disciplined from the USS Fitzgerald for this. That just came, just this past week, it was announced several people have been fired. Here, look at this. This is just 3 days ago. 3 days ago this happened. USS Fitzgerald leadership relieved of duty after deadly collision. Why does every site have autoplay videos? And it says the top 3 leaders aboard the USS Fitzgerald, which was badly damaged in a collision, will be removed from duty. The top 3 leaders. So you'd think this clearly the Navy thinks the Fitzgerald collision from 2 months ago was a huge mistake on the part of the people running the USS Fitzgerald. You'd think it would be on everybody in the U.S. Navy's radar not to collide again. And yet here we have 3 days after it was announced these 3 people were being let go, we have the U.S. Navy destroyer John S. McCain colliding with this giant, massive 600-foot tanker. Now, I know that I don't know who's at fault here in theory for the who's at fault for the crash, but I remember when we were covering the USS Fitzgerald accident, there were a number of people who I read who said, look, even if the other ship was aiming at the USS Fitzgerald, it should be able to get out of the way. Like there's all this kind of collision avoidance stuff in place. And it's not like this is a speedboat. I mean, I'm sure it could go to reasonable speed, but it's not like this is a speedboat. And it's not like it's going to surprise you out of nowhere. So the fact that we now have in 2 months, in just 3 days after the people from the first accident were fired, we now have a second accident between a U.S. destroyer and a giant ship like this in the same region is just mind-boggling. I want to get to your comments. Write to me at Lookner on Twitter if you have comments on this. If you have thoughts, maybe you know someone in the Navy, maybe you've served on a ship before, maybe you just have thoughts on it, write to me. Also, real quick, this is Right Side Broadcasting. We are viewer supported. Now, I don't believe right now any mainstream media is reporting on this. At least a little while ago, I checked. So CNN right now is running a documentary on the 90s. That's what CNN is. CNN has a documentary on the 90s. Fox News Channel is running Water's World, which I believe is pre-recorded. Don't hold me to that because I haven't seen tonight's exact episode, but I'll put it on here. Oh, and Dateline on MSNBC is running a documentary about a poker player, okay? So that's what you're going to get in the mainstream media tonight with this huge story happening. You're going to get a documentary about the 90s, a documentary about the poker player, and I think a rerun or a pre-recorded, actually at least a pre-recorded episode of Water's World, which is not going to talk about this. But we here at Right Side, we're on the air covering it because we think it's important. I don't know why the mainstream media can't bother to go on the air and at least cover this story live. They don't want to interrupt the 90s documentary. Sorry, guys. Let me hold on one second. Let me just turn this off here. So I apologize if it turns out that they're covering this on Water's World. I don't believe they are, but somebody feel free to correct me if they are. But we want to cover it for you. We think it's really important, and we'll come on the air even if those guys won't. But we're viewer supported. We don't have hundreds of millions of dollars like those news channels do. We have very little money, and we just do this thanks to your donations. You guys allow us to be on the air thanks to your generosity. So if you like that you have a place to go for live coverage of this giant story of a second U.S. Navy destroyer collision in 2 months, you can watch live coverage rather than going to news channels and watching a documentary about the 90s or a documentary about poker players. If you like that, please consider donating, because we do really rely on your donations to stay on the air. If we had no donations, we couldn't stay on the air. So if you want to donate, go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or you can do what some people have already just did, and I'll have to thank them in a second. Go to the YouTube chat right next to the broadcast. There's a $sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat. Just click on that $sign. You can donate that way. And thank you, by the way, too. We got some donations here. Tom O'Neill gave $10. He said, "Thanks, Steve, for all your hard work, and Mattis, we trust." Thank you, Tom, for your donation. Jerry OOOG gave a $10 donation. Thank you, Jerry, for all your support, your frequent support. We appreciate it. Christine Bestgen is also a longtime supporter of Right Side, a viewer and supporter. Christine gave $2. Thank you, Christine. So we really appreciate the donations, because that lets us come on the air and give you live coverage when no one else is doing it. Just for my satisfaction, hold on. There's a reason I'm leaning on a frame. Just for my satisfaction, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up here. I really just want to pull up Fox News, and just because I don't want to badmouth Fox News if they're on live covering us, and I just got to check real quick because they were in commercial before. Let's see. It'll take 2 seconds. I'm opening it up on my iPad right now, and everything is changing. They're showing some stuff on about the election or something. So they're not covering it live. So none of the news channels is covering this live. Nobody is, but we are. Fine, we'll cover it. Carl Peterson just gave Tara $10 and said, "RSBN is simply the best, MAGA." Thank you, Carl, so much. All right, I'm going to get to your comments now, but first, let me just check my sources and see if there's any updates about this accident. But then I'll get to I want to see what you have to say about this. Let's see. Oh my gosh, this is an update. This is an update. Hold on, guys. Let me get this on the screen for you. Here is update. Breaking news from David B. Larder. I think he writes for Navy Times. Yes, he. Let me see. Let me just make sure so I get this right. DefenseNews.com. He says the crew of the destroyer John S. McCain is fighting flooding in 2 crew berthings and in what's called Shaft Alley. They are fighting flooding in 2 crew berthings. That is awful news to me, because that means that water got into where the crew sleeps. That is exactly how people drowned in the USS Fitzgerald accident. The crew berthings, the area where they sleep, was flooded in 90 seconds and 7 people died. This is very bad news. Hopefully people got out of there or they weren't sleeping or something. But remember, this crash also happened very early in the morning, about 5 in the morning it looked like, because it said it got reported around 6:20, but we heard reports. We heard another report that it happened around 5 something. So I hope people weren't sleeping in there and some bad stuff happened. But this is very concerning news that the crew is fighting flooding in 2 crew berthings. And that suggests this was not a scratch. This was a major accident. It is, I'm one who doesn't say these things are intentional, and I'm not ready to say it's intentional. And personally, if I had to bet, I would bet on non-intentional. But at a certain point, how can this happen twice? How can this happen twice? And the other thing about it being intentional is that, from what I've heard, even if a giant tanker like the one that hit the destroyer tonight or collided with it, this one here, I've read stuff that says even if these tankers were aiming at a destroyer, destroyers have plenty of avoidance procedures and they should be able to avoid it. I mean, look at how big this thing is. So it's hard for me to believe that somebody could steer something this gigantic out of nowhere into a U.S. destroyer. But the fact that this destroyer tonight was hit so bad that it's fighting flooding in 2 crew berthings and something called Shaft Alley, and I guess maybe a Shaft Alley where all the certain machinery is, like shafts that help turn the propeller or whatever. Let me look up Shaft Alley and see what that means. Shaft Alley is an enclosure on a ship for housing propeller shaft and a walk for oilers. Shaft Alley is where the propeller ship is. That's awful news. So this is where the crew sleeps and where the propeller is. I'm gonna tweet. I want to retweet this because I think this is so bad. Flooding where the crew sleeps and where the propeller is. Not good. Oh, this is awful news. How has this happened twice? All right, so that's that. Let me just check. I want to get your comments. Write to me if you have comments on this and you have thoughts and you have maybe some insight as to why this might have happened again. I'm just losing my mind with how crazy this is. I cannot believe this has happened again. I feel like it's a joke or something that it's happened again. And it's so similar to the other one. Ugh. All right, give me 1 second. Let me just see if I can get any more updates here. This is just awful. Just awful. I don't believe it. And again, I don't think the mainstream media is covering this at all. We just looked 10 minutes ago. None of them were covering it. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Badger Fool says, very strange. You are right. This shouldn't have been possible. Zhank says, shaft alley is a corridor from the engine room to the shafts that make the propellers move. This affects the movement of the ship. I guess in my tweet I said where the propeller is. I mean, maybe that's technically wrong because what I meant is like where the shaft that controls the propeller. I'm going to leave the tweet up there anyway, but I'm considering it part of the propeller. I'm maybe technically wrong, but at this point. Rusty City writes, men are tripping over themselves. Welp, here's to democracy. Let me get some more of your comments here. Write to me at Lookner. Let me know what you think about this incredible, awful story, a crazy story. JC writes, Steve, they want us to go to war. Thank you, by the way, to JC and all the moderators in the chat for moderating the chat. We appreciate it. Let's see. John Vining says I should check out BBC News. Okay, John, I'll check out BBC News and see what they say. There were some more donations. Let me, I'll get to those in a second. Thank you. Yeah, BBC News has another article about it. Okay, Stephen Anderson just gave $5. Thank you, Stephen, so much. Appreciate it. Light Switch gave $10. Said, thanks for the coverage. You're welcome, Light Switch. Misty Spillers gave $10. Said, always appreciate you, RSBN. Thank you, Misty. David Gagnon gave $10. Thank you, David. Yeah, and these donations, we don't go and buy like furniture with it and go on vacations with it. This just keeps us on the air. We're viewer supported. And your support is why we can come on the air and cover this live when none of the mainstream media is covering it. And they're doing things like showing documentaries about the 90s right now and documentaries on poker players. That's what they're showing. I'm not kidding you. We just looked. Okay, let's do a quick recap for people who are joining the stream. Okay, so this morning in Singapore, Pacific Ocean, that area time, this ship, the USS John McCain, a guided missile destroyer, collided with this ship, I am not kidding you, the Alnic MC here, which I'll show you, a 600-foot-long tanker. The U.S. ship, the destroyer, the U.S. Let me get a better picture of the John McCain, by the way. That would be nice to do for you. So those two ships collided. One of them is a U.S. destroyer. One of them is as I said before, a tanker, a merchant tanker. I think an oil tanker. So that's going to be too big now. How about a smaller picture? Sorry, guys. I just want to get you a better shot of the USS John McCain on the air so you could see it rather than that small picture I had up. Is that going to be any better? No. I'll try one more. There we go. There it is. There is the USS John McCain. That destroyer collided with this ship, and the destroyer has sustained significant damage on its port. It's sustained damage on its port side. Okay. And also, there's a search and rescue operation going on. This ship is going back to port on its own power, but meanwhile, there's a search and rescue operation going on with a number of helicopters and ships, and the U.S. Navy is accessing, they're trying to figure out the extent of injuries. And also, we just saw this very worrisome tweet here, which I'll show you, where David Larder said, the crew of the destroyer John S. McCain is fighting flooding in 2 crew berthings where the crew sleeps and in what's called Shaft Alley, which includes where the propeller shaft is. So this is really worrying news here. Very, very worrying. Let's see. Tom Clark gave $10, said, keep up the great work, Stephen RSBN. Thank you, Tom. Pebble Dropped gave $10 too. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Those donations just help us stay on the air and be able to cover this stuff, which I think should be covered. If no one else is covering, we're going to cover it at least. Okay, I want to get some more information about what's going on with this, and I want to get to your comments. If you have thoughts on why this happened, maybe somebody was in the Navy out there or worked on ships, or if you just have thoughts about what happened, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Also, be sure, subscribe to Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube so you get notified whenever we come on the air with breaking news videos like this. And when you subscribe on YouTube, be sure to click the notifications bell so you get notifications. Also, RSBN, Right Side's Twitter is at RSB Network, and mine is at Lookner. Okay, let me just see if there are any quick updates here before I get to more of your comments. This is one of the craziest stories I've just seen in years. It's terrible, too. It's terrible and crazy. It's both of those things. How could this happen again? And I think the other ship got hit on the side, too. The one 2 months ago, the USS Fitzgerald, the destroyer, which collided with the tanker, that got hit, too, and 7 soldiers died and got hit in the crew berthing area, flooded on that one, too. This is a tweet from Maggie Haberman. The president responded to shouted questions about today's collision of the USS John McCain. That's too bad, he said. Retweet that one. So the president is aware of this. I guess he's aware of it. It happened very recently. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just learned. Give me 1 sec, guys. All right, let me get to some of your messages here. Okay, this is from P. Tudsbury. P. Tudsbury writes, Steve, from people with naval experience, destroyers have many lines of defense. Not to forget, there are live people watching in every direction 24/7. Add that to mechanical and electronic signals and warning, not just radar, but other sensors. Remember, the locations rammed in both the Fitzgerald and now the McCain is crew berthing areas. My guess and others, this is some new method of attack. Friends said they are hacking these destroyers and shutting down their proximity warning networks. As I said before, thank you, P. Tudsbury, for your analysis. As I said before, I'm somebody who I always think the simpler explanation is better and more likely, and it takes a lot to convince me that something nefarious is happening, and I'm not convinced yet on this. But at a certain point, how can these two things so similar happen so close to each other? I mean, as Pete Tudsbury, so close in time to each other, both things that should never happen, really. You have 2 destroyers in 2 months colliding with 2 giant tankers. This one it collided with is 600 feet long. Look, I'm showing you, it's 600 feet long. And as Pete Tudsbury said, in both cases, crew berthing areas are hit by the ship head on. That's getting the ship, the tanker is hitting the U.S. destroyer head on where its crew berthing areas are. It seems like even this happening one time is crazy. But how could this happen just 3 days after they let go? Look at this. 3 days ago, this happened. The top 3 leaders of the USS Fitzgerald were fired 3 days ago for the first collision. So how could this happen now? You think they think they'd be extra on the watch for this in the same region? So this is a giant story to me. Either there's something nefarious going on, or there is just some kind of insanely bad thing going on in the Navy, some kind of gross incompetence or something going on in the Navy that needs to be figured out. I don't even know how to explain it. By the way, Chuck LaViolette just gave $20. Thank you, Chuck. We appreciate it. Charlie Fraley gave $5. Thank you, Charlie. And I think that's all. Tom Clark, I think I said your name before, Tom. Thank you. And the donations help us stay on the air, and your donations let us cover this stuff. Where I just looked at CNN; they're showing the '90s documentary still. Go try to find live coverage of this. To me, this is a gigantic story. Either it means someone is attacking the U.S. or there is some giant fundamental problem with the U.S. Navy going on. And I think, to me, that's at least suggested that this would happen, that two of these could happen. And the mainstream media isn't even doing live coverage. So we're viewer supported. If you like the fact that we come on live for the story like this, a big story that the mainstream media refuses to cover live, please consider donating, because your donations are what allow us to come on and be on the air. If you want to donate, go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or click on the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat room. And I will get to some of more of your comments now. I'm sorry, there's been so much news going on. I haven't been able to get to your comments, but I'm going to get to them. At Lookner on Twitter is where to write me if you have any thoughts on this crash or you have any expertise in this field. Let me real quick, it's important to check if there are any updates about the actual ship. So let me see if I can get any for you. This is really awful. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you, Christine Bestien, for a $2 donation. And she says, sailors, my friend, not soldiers. Sailors. Yes, I'm sorry if I misspoke. Okay. It looks like here, in this story I'm looking at, where is it? I was told at this story it said that the U.S. sent a ship to render assistance. The U.S. sent a ship. Oh. MV-22s and HA-60s are also responding. What is an SH-60? An SH-60 is from the U.S. So U.S. helicopters, here's an SH-60. Sorry. So the U.S. is sending helicopters too. And this is one of them, the Skyhawk there, the Sikorsky SH-60 Skyhawk, that's on the right there. So the U.S. is sending those. And MV-22s is here. Wow, Ospreys. Oh my gosh. So U.S. is sending Ospreys and helicopters to, unbelievable, let's see, and a ship. Navy Chief Malaysia has sent a ship. So what we're seeing though is, in addition to, all right, so I was confused, but what this story tells us is that U.S. helicopters and Ospreys are assisting in search and rescue. I want to tweet that out, because it actually said down here, I'll show you again, look where it says, MV-22s and SH-60s, sorry, I'll get it up here, MV-22s and SH-60s from the USS America are also responding. Wow. U.S. Ospreys and helicopters reportedly also assisting in search and rescue after U.S. destroyer collision. Sorry, that's important. I wanted to get that out there. Wow, this is really bad. This is really bad. Okay, let me get to you, and give me 1 second here. I just have to text Joe something. I noticed, we're going to keep covering this. I noticed there might be protests going on in Laguna Beach, so maybe we'll start a second stream. But just give me a second. I got to text Joe to let him know about it, and maybe he can put 2 streams and you can open up 2 windows. Sorry, guys, but we're just going to get a second stream on the air if it warrants it. Okay, I'm done. Just have to text Joe and let him know if he's going to check out the Laguna Beach thing, and if it warrants a second stream, we'll start a second stream to cover that as well. But I want to stay on the air and cover this because it's such a big story, and I want to get to your comments now. Sorry it's taken so long, guys, to get to your comments, but all this news has been happening. Okay, let's see. We have some messages here. Let's see. Cindy Lindy Lou writes, tanker flying under Liberian flag, which the U.S. Navy can board to search for WMD in international waters. Tanker was sailing from Pyeongtaek, Korea to Singapore. Looks odd. That's from CU. There are 10... Wow. Jeffrey Walker just sent me a new tweet. This is not good news at all, guys. This is bad news. This is really bad news. This is breaking news. Thank you, Jeffrey, for sending this to me. Dan Murphy says, the U.S. Navy now says there are 10 sailors missing and 5 injured. 10 sailors missing and 5 injured. Oh my gosh, this is awful. This is awful. He's a CNBC correspondent. 10 sailors missing. Unbelievable. This is terrible, terrible news. I cannot believe this has happened again. I just can't believe it. What terrible news. Thank you for sending that in to me. I just need to check something real quick here. This is just awful. Just going to try to get some updates here. Unbelievable. Oh, what awful news. All right, let me get to some more of your messages. 10 sailors missing. How can this happen again? I just tweeted that out. How can it happen again? How can this happen again? There's something really weird going on here. Webster, thanks, Webster. We got letting me know about the donations. And Lloyd3322 gave $10. Said, I don't know how this is happening. I was in the USS Antietam, which was in the same area. After I left, it ran aground years back. I don't know how these other 2 ships got hit. Unbelievable. David Gagnon gave a donation and said, this is what happens when you let China design your defenses technology. This is a warning. Okay, let me get to some more of your messages. Just awful, awful news. I cannot believe this happened again. Notorious LIN says, guided missile destroyer couldn't avoid a collision. I am sure China, Russia, and North Korea is laughing at US right now. How embarrassing. Philly Girl says, OAN just reported this story. So they're reporting it at least. Now, I bet CNN and all of them will come on eventually now because 10 sailors are missing. Unbelievable. Jason Clement says, please post a YouTube feed. We're on YouTube, Jason. Let's see here. Ryan says, reports, oh yeah, Ryan, thank you. You sent me the report this was initially happening like about an hour ago. Thank you. Boog Rose says, he sent me a whole bunch of facts about the ship. Thank you, Boog, about the destroyer. So the USS McCain, supposedly, if these facts are right from Bougro, it's like 500 feet long. 210 enlisted personnel, 38 chief petty officers, 33 commissioned officers. Thank you, Boog. If you have feedback on this, if you have thoughts, maybe you were in the Navy or you know something about ships, just have any thoughts about this crazy story, this awful story, give me a shout on Twitter, at Lookner, at Lookner. Also, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, Right Side Broadcasting, to get the latest videos when we go on the air like this. Subscribe to us and click the notifications bell. That way you'll get notified whenever we go on the air and cover news like this. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, feel free to share this video and like it on YouTube. That'll help let other people know that we're covering this. Rusty City says all hands weren't on deck. Joe Northpal says, again, Aegis combat system fail. Houston, we have a problem. Is it in-house or foreign? A good question. Chuck Laviolette also told me about 10 sailors were missing. Thank you. Steelers Marine says, sabotage by immigrant terrorist soldiers and seamen loyal to Obama, just like the Marine Corps planes crashing. Storm and Firefighter EMS says, this doesn't sound right. It sounds fishy. This is just, all right, let me see if I can get some more news updates about the, oh, and I want to show real quick, LC, Lynn Jean sent me a message here that I want to show you on the screen. U.S. telephone numbers for USS John McCain families. I'm going to retweet that. Wow, this is a crazy story, an awful story. 10 sailors missing now. How could this happen again? And I want to, real quick, I want to follow U.S. Navy so I get updates from them on this and the 7th Fleet. And I'll tell you this tweet from the 7th Fleet. Look. Initial reports indicate USS John McCain damage to port side aft, extent of damage and injuries being determined. We're covering this awful and crazy story, the second U.S. Navy destroyer collision with a giant tanker ship in 2 months in the same region. In the one 2 months ago, 7 soldiers were killed. In this one, 10 soldiers are missing. In the ship was the USS John McCain, which is this ship right here, and it collided with this giant tanker. How can such a thing happen even once? Never mind twice. Unbelievable. It's just incredible. I know I keep saying that, but I just don't believe it. That's Mr. says, easy, they aren't accidents. Charlie Fraley says, no way this is an accident. It sounds like they're trying to cripple our Navy for their future advantage. Our boys are dying. Wow. I also want to tweet out again, by the way. Where is it? I need to tweet out something right now. If I can find, hold on. I want to find that tweet I found from that person who said that 10 were missing. Here it is. This is my thought on this, same as a lot of you. Something is really, really wrong here. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something with the Navy or somebody's messing with the Navy, but there is something very, very wrong when two such similar accidents, neither of which should ever happen so close to each other. This is a really big deal, and there is something really, really wrong going on. Brent Kitchen says, U.S. Navy 5 years. There is no way this was negligence. Bridge watch is 24/7 when underway. Most likely cause is proximity equipment sabotage. And I got to say, guys, real quick before we get back to your comments. Hold on one second. I gotta say, I just quickly turned on the TV and I was shocked to see CNN is still showing the 90s. Their documentary, and I'm looking. MSNBC is still showing a documentary on a poker player. So I want to tweet this out. Sorry, I got to do this because it just annoys me so much. CNN and MSNBC are still showing documentaries. Is Fox maybe covering it at least? Are we still the only ones doing this? Is this not like such a huge story that it should be just totally covered? I'm just stunned here. And Fox. So there's my tweet there, guys. I wanted to send that out because I think it's really annoying and disturbing. And if you want to know about TV news, about where it's at these days, that's where it's at. How is this? This is a gigantic story. In addition to sailors being hurt, potentially killed, we have either a major crisis with the Navy or some kind of nefarious action against our Navy. How is this not a huge story? Sorry, it's just driving me crazy. And I know I'm saying it a lot, but okay, let's get an update. Let me take a second and get updates on what is going on here. And then I will get to some more of your comments. And thank you for so many comments and your insights so far. If you have insight on this or comments or a thought on this, or you worked on a ship, or you know something about this, or if you don't know anything about it and just have thoughts on it, write to me on Twitter, at Lookner, at Lookner. I want to hear what you have to say about this. Okay, let me do a quick check and see what if I can find any new news. Also, if you hear any new news, so you guys have been great about that. If you see a new piece of information, a new tweet or something, give me a shout on Twitter, at Lookner. And also, if you like the fact that we're on the air live covering this, and because nobody else is, but we are, at least the major news networks aren't, please consider making a donation because we need your donations to stay on the air. We're a viewer-supported network. If you want to donate, either go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or go to the YouTube chat room and click on the $ at the bottom of the chat room. And honestly, I hate talking about donations at a time like this, but at the same time, we think it's important to be on the air covering stories like this. Before I worked at Right Side, if a story like this happened and I couldn't get coverage of it on TV, which was frequently, it would drive me nuts. So to me, we love here at Right Side being able to come on and actually give live coverage to important stories. And the only reason we ask for donations when we're talking about this story is because we really do rely on the donations to stay on the air, and we want to keep staying on the air for you guys. So that's why we ask. I know, and I'm sorry to bring it up now, but I just want to explain why I'm saying that. And Joe says about Laguna Beach, he said he's keeping an eye on protests there. Things seem to be calm right now, but Joe will keep an eye on it. Okay, give me one sec, guys, and see. Let's see. You know, and a lot of people who I follow on Twitter, like, they're not even tweeting about this like I think they should be. Let me do something real quick here. Malaysia has sent a ship to look for the missing from the USS John McCain. That I just read. And I can't get, let me just do a quick search. Let me get some of your messages. You guys, I want to get some of your messages. Susan says, what was the official determination of the previous Navy ship accident? Well, I never heard yet a report about exactly why it happened, but I do know that they let the top three commanders of the ship go. Hold on, I'll show you. That's not the one. That's not the... Here, the top 3 leaders aboard the USS Fitzgerald, the last one, were removed from duty. At some point, the bridge team lost situational awareness. Let's see. So that. It didn't have much details in this article, in the articles I read. So I haven't read a detailed... Oh, and look at this. The statement also added that the government statement, the collision was avoidable and both ships demonstrated poor seamanship. Flawed watch teamwork and inadequate leadership were factors in the collision. So all those reasons were given by the Navy itself for the ship. I didn't see like a specific technical analysis of how the crash happened, but those were all, it seemed like a failure of watch, a failure of leadership. We have 3 people... The top 3 people on the USS Fitzgerald were let go and fired this week. So, or at least it was reported this week. So that's what I know about the first crash. Yeah, and Gary Vance, we're keeping an eye on the protests in Laguna Beach, and we'll start a second stream if it warrants. Let's see. Peppermint Patty says they've set up a family assistance center, so that doesn't sound good. Yeah, I noticed that as well. Thank you. And I'll show you guys that. USA, a family assistance, an emergency family assistance center has been established for family members. I'll retweet that too. Thanks for letting me know about that. Let's see here. Oh, David Larder, Pete Husbury said David Larder had posted something which I missed. So I wanted to go check out David Larder's, hold on guys, his Twitter. Look at this tweet. The ship that struck McCain is roughly 3 times its size. Alnick MCs is about 30,000 gross tonnage. McCain is 9,600 fully loaded. That's how big the ship is that that collided with. It's 3 times the size of a U.S. Navy destroyer. Not easy to be surprised by a ship that size. Here's the tweet that Pete Husbury wanted me to know about. As with Fitzgerald, the crew will be sealing off any spaces that are too badly flooded to be salvaged and pumping out water in other spaces. And the worry is when they might have to seal off crew berthing areas if the water's coming in too fast. And with the Fitzgerald, they had to eventually give up on going in to rescue people because it was flooding too fast, and they had to seal off some of the crew berthing area. Okay, let's get back to your comments here. Teresa says, how does this happen? Incompetence, sabotage, equipment failure? Come on, seems like someone is trying to destroy Navy by accident. Black Avelli says, CNN only tweeted something an hour ago about the Navy crisis. Why is this not on TV? I totally agree with you, Black Avelli. Totally agree with you. Evelina Rose says, true colors of lamestream and no love for our USA at all. Oh, and I guess we're also live. If you want to open up a second window, we're showing some footage of the protests in Laguna Beach. There's some protests at a rally there. So if I'm going to be sticking with this Navy story, but if you want to open up 2 windows, you can watch both this story and the story about the protests in Laguna Beach, both of them. Neither of which, I will point out, the mainstream media is covering live at all. So there you go. We have us covering both, them covering none. If you like that you have a channel that's covering this story live and those Laguna Beach protests and rallies, and the rally and the protest live, please consider donating because we're viewer supported. We rely on you to stay on the air. So if you like having somebody besides the mainstream media who will actually come on and cover important stories, aside from Trump all the time, please consider making a donation. To do that, go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or go to the YouTube chat room right next to the broadcast, and there's a $ sign at the bottom of the chat room, and you can click on it. And we just use that money to stay on the air. We're viewer supported. That's what we use it for. And we ask for it because we want to be on the air covering more stories for you guys. Because clearly there's a need for somebody to cover these stories live because the mainstream media isn't doing it, as we've seen tonight. Also, let me know your thoughts on this terrible ship collision, this crazy, awful story that this happened twice in 2 months with 10 sailors missing. Write to me on Twitter, @Lookner on Twitter. Red Pill News Rant, thank you. I already retweeted that tweet. Ronald Larson says, agreed, very strange that this happened again. Holly says, darn near impossible to find news on a news network anymore. Miss Nene, she said something about the president's address tomorrow night. Now I wonder. Look, I hope they find all these soldiers. I hope they find everybody and everybody's fine. If the really bad thing happens, and some of these soldiers aren't found, or they drowned or something, which would be horrible, but I'm worried because we look at what happened with the USS Fitzgerald. 7 soldiers died. Will President Trump still go forward with his big speech tomorrow night? Will the timing of that be affected at all? I don't know. David Fox says, Fox just did a 30-second blurb on the 10 missing, 5 injuries. Well, that means they didn't cover 30 seconds. They didn't cover it live. They didn't actually do coverage of it. Ella Bell Wilson says, maybe it's a deliberate attempt from some country to reduce our warship fleet. CNN Breaking News just sent out a tweet about this, saying 10 soldiers are missing. And Brian N. wrote "about time" on it as a comment. And Florida Lifestyle Prop just tweeted out, if you are a news buff and need your news in real time, Right Side Broadcasting. Ella Bell Wilson says, I think it's a deliberate attempt to reduce our fleet. Thank you, Jeffrey, for that Maggie Haberman tweet. I retweeted it already. David Darvishian says, awesome job with breaking news, Steve. I'm always checking it out now that I get notifications. That's awesome. Thank you, David, for watching. We just want to cover this stuff. We think it's important. And by the way, Rain and Mist gave a donation, said, good job, RSBN. Thank you for being the only outlet to cover breaking news events like these. Yeah, thank you for the donation. Your donation will help us cover events like these. Philip Newar says, this is insane. Trump needs to control this weak naval military. Hoping these soldiers return, Trump needs to smarten up. Let me summarize what we know so far. Let me summarize, as I do periodically, about this awful and crazy story. Remember, 2 months ago, a U.S. destroyer, the USS Fitzgerald, somehow collided with a giant tanker, which hit it in the side, and 7 soldiers died because of all the flooding. And the ship had to be towed back, and it was just awful. And 3 days ago, it was announced that the top 3 people in charge of that ship, the USS Fitzgerald, had been fired, and there was just gross failures of leadership and failures of keeping a good watch on that ship, and that's the Navy is blaming, but they're saying both ships exhibited bad seamanship, but the Navy put blame. They said that it sounded like the Navy was saying this wouldn't have happened if the U.S. people had been doing what they were supposed to on that ship. So 2 months after that accident and 3 days after those firings, what happens? This ship here tonight, so it's tomorrow morning in Asia, this ship here near Singapore, the USS John McCain destroyer, a huge ship, collides with this massive 600-foot ship, the Alnic MC, with a Liberian flag on it, an oil chemical tanker, which is 600 feet long. It's 3 times the size of the destroyer. How this runs into the destroyer, I never know. I will never figure out. And now we have seen that there are fighting flooding on the USS John McCain, which is this ship. They're fighting flooding in 2 crew berthing areas, which is incredibly bad because that means where the crew sleeps was breached. We've heard 10 soldiers are missing, and there's a search and rescue operation going on. And what else did we know? So that's a bunch of the stuff about what we know now. 10 missing and 5 injured. So in addition to the 10 missing, there are 5 injured. So it is just, as I've said before, to me, either something horribly wrong is going on in the U.S. Navy, or, and I want to say this is less likely, although I don't know how much less likely it is, given that these 2 things have both happened, which sounds crazy. The other possibility would be something nefarious going on, and either some kind of sort of sabotage, or sabotage from within, or some kind of attack from without. A couple of you have said sabotage from within, and it makes you wonder, but could you sabotage in a way to make a U.S. ship get hit by an oil tanker? I don't know enough about this, but At a certain point that this has happened twice in such a short amount of time in the same area so similarly, that just seems so unlikely that it would just be an accident both times. So we're going to keep covering this. But let me know what you think about this. At Lookner on Twitter. Write to me. Let me know. Also, we have another stream going of protests against a rally, some counter-protest, dueling protests going on in Laguna Beach. You can find that on our Right Side Broadcasting page on YouTube. And you can open that and you can watch that and this at the same time. I don't think mainstream media is live on either of those stories. Okay, let me do a quick check here and see if there's any updated news about what's going on, and then I'll get to your messages. Micah Messer says 2 times is no accident. He says, Micah Messer writes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I doubt this is just an accident. 2 times is no accident. That's what Micah says. And Micah, I understand what you're, and I've been saying the same thing. You know, I agree. 2 times, there's something really real wrong going on here. No matter what it is. 10 missing, 5 injured. But yeah, and I agree, and I think I'm going to tweet something out about that. It's just like, well, I tweeted out something is really, really wrong here. So as to what it is that's wrong, I don't know, but something is really wrong. I'm going to tweet this out. Two similar and highly unlikely accidents in 2 months in same region. Institutional problem with Navy. Sabotage. Hostile act. To me, those are the 3 possibilities to me. That there's some institutional problem with the Navy. There's some fundamental problem there. That it's sabotage from within. Oops, I can't do that. That's not going to fit. I mean, so if you guys, is there another, these are the 3 possibilities I'm thinking of. Institutional problem with the Navy of some sort, sabotage from within, or a hostile act from without. I mean, it seems incredibly unlikely that just 2 accidents happen. I mean, if there's 2 accidents and it wasn't sabotage or hostile act, it's like, are they training the people wrong, or is some equipment malfunctioning or something? Anyways. Let me just see if there's any more updates on this. So much to talk about here. We were even ahead tonight. Like, you're just seeing some of the breaking news sites I follow are just starting to report it. Let's get to your messages. Not a Soros puppet says rescue the sailors and scrap the ship. And YNWA Liverpool says, for sure something is happening on the inside. I'm starting to doubt the power of the United States. Side job. Inside job. Hashtag inside job. This, to me, this could be a real crisis for President Trump, by the way. This, to me, is a crisis. Don't be fooled that the mainstream media is not on live about this. This is a crisis. This is such a big story, and it's so utterly stupid. It shows lots of things, but it's so stupid they're not covering this right now. This is a crazy story, and it could be a giant crisis. IntelliTrump says Aegis software hack. My guess, malware on major military system. Interesting theory. At a certain point, as I've said before, I'm the one who's like always least likely to say, oh, it's a hostile act or it's sabotage or something. But at a certain point, those start becoming more likely than just it being an accident. Brian N. says, it is impossible for this to be an accident. Same with the first one. I wouldn't be surprised if Kim Jong-un is behind this. How about Iran? Let's see. some more comments here from you guys. I just want to get to all your comments, or try to get to all of them. If you have comments on this, write to me at Lookner on Twitter. Marcy says, Steve, this was done by the deep state to distract from what is going to go down tomorrow. Spy ring in Congress to break tomorrow. Now that's where I see. To me, on my personal thing is, I think like the deep state stuff. To me, if it's sabotage from within, it's some like lone actor or a small group of people, not. I tend to think those kind of things are more likely than some kind of deep state thing. But that's your opinion. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just we take all comers here in terms of we don't tell you what to think. We want to hear what your opinion is, whatever it is. You might think it's just an accident. That's fine. My tendency is to think that, the more that has to happen for something to happen, there would have to be a lot happening for like a deep state thing to be happening. But I respect your opinion. Ella Bell Wilson says, so sad again. Too much of a coincidence, I feel. It seems our Navy might be being sabotaged. China or North Korea, or even worse, internal? Reagan Better, yes, I've heard some a Malaysian ship is helping, and I saw some other nations' ships in helicopters are helping. I did see that. Let's see here. More messages from you guys. CU says, Alnic MC, the tanker, was flying under a flag of convenience for ship registration, Liberia. It is flying under a Liberian flag. FOA helps hide ownership like an offshore bank account. Terrorists use ships with FOC, I don't know what that stands for, which is why the government, flag of convenience, I guess. That's what you mean. Flag of convenience, which is why the U.S. government has a proliferation security initiative shipboarding agreement with Liberia, perhaps a preemptive strike to prevent the U.S. Navy from boarding the vessel traveling from Korea. That was from CU. Susan says, there is no way sabotage to kill our soldiers, inconceivable or not. Daniel Kotowski says, deep state sabotage. Copernica says, enemy messing with the GPS radar signals? Peppermint Patty says, no accident. Andrew Sova says, the shadow government is instructing them. Am I wrong? Norway for Trump writes, President Obama all but destroyed the American military. He destroyed the military to pre-1940 levels. With Obama's destruction, like the armed forces, including the Navy, lost not only hardware but personnel. Needless to say, it takes years to decades to build a good officer. When officers left or were fired because of Obama's destructive anti-American policy, the Navy lost a lot of experience and expertise. Now, this could just be coincidence, but the previous accident showed lousy seamanship, so it has me thinking that the poor leadership culture from Obama's terms has seeped through the naval organization. Thank you for writing, Norway. Kristen Chaffin writes in, I am a Navy vet and I have stood these watches. There is something going on. In the Straits, we only have the most experienced officers navigating, many people on lookout. Sad to say, I don't believe this is a coincidence. FYI, CNN just sent out an alert about the story. But I'm guessing they didn't interrupt the 90s documentary yet. Thank you, Kristen, for writing in and your perspective on this. Clay Smith, Laguna Beach coverage is good. If you want to watch stuff about the Laguna Beach protests, we're doing another stream, unless it's ended, but we're doing another stream on Right Side Broadcasting. Go to Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube. You can open up that window in addition to this one. Let's see if I can find more information about this. You're watching Right Side Broadcasting's coverage of this crazy, awful accident. Donna B gave $15, by the way, and said, thank you for all you do, and God bless our military and the president. Thank you, Donna B, for your donation. You're watching Right Side Broadcasting's coverage of, crazily, a second very similar collision between a U.S. destroyer and a merchant ship, a giant tanker, this tanker right here. The Alnic MC collided with the USS John McCain. 10 U.S. sailors are missing, 5 are injured. It is crazy to imagine how this ship could have run into our destroyer, but it did, especially 2 months after a similarly gigantic ship ran into a U.S. destroyer and killed 7 sailors. So We're just trying to figure out what the heck is going on, and a bunch of you are writing in, which we appreciate. Also, we've been covering this for like the last hour or so since we heard about it. Mainstream media hasn't been. Maybe they'll start, but it's such a huge story, and it just shocked me that the mainstream. Well, it doesn't. It shocks me, but it doesn't shock me. But it's amazing that they're not covering this live, and that they haven't been covering it live. Maybe they just started 5 seconds ago, but it's just so dumb. So we wanted to bring this live to you because it's so important. It's such a big story, and it's only going to get bigger, in my opinion. But we are viewer supported, so if you like having an alternative to the mainstream media, please consider donating so we can stay on the air and cover more events like this for you, and cover more news, and bring you what's out there rather than showing you documentaries when big events like this are happening. And if you want to donate, go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or in the YouTube chat room next to the broadcast, just go to the bottom. There's a $sign there. You can click on the $sign. And thank you to the moderators for moderating our chat tonight, doing such a great job. Also, if you want to know when we come on the air with breaking news videos, we do it all the time. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And when you do, click the notifications bell, and that will allow you to get notifications whenever we come on the air live. Okay. And if you have thoughts and comments, we've been getting, if you have thoughts or comments on this, or you find some new news out about this collision, give me a shout on Twitter, at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner, and Right Side Broadcasting is at RSB Network. Such a big story. To me, this is such a huge story. Like, everybody in the media should be tweeting about this and following it, and they're just not. And it's like, I'm looking at my feed, and all these people I expect to be tweeting about this in the media like aren't even tweeting about it. And it's like, how could you not be? Here's an official update from the Navy. U.S. Navy just sent this update. I'm going to show you it right now. I'll retweet it first. This is from the U.S. Navy. Actually, hold on a second, guys. Let me raise it a little bit here. Oops. Give me 1 sec, guys. I'm sorry. I'm raising this so you can see the whole thing, which will take about 10 seconds here. This is an update from the U.S. Navy. It says, this is from the U.S. Navy, the guided missile destroyer USS John McCain was involved in a collision with the merchant vessel Lookner MC while underway east of the Straits of Malacca in Singapore on August 21st. There are currently 10 sailors missing and 5 injured. Very worrying to have missing sailors. I do not think that looks good, guys. That's really sad and upsetting. The collision was reported at 6:24 a.m. Japan Standard Time, while the ship was transiting to a routine port visit in Singapore. A family assistance center has been established. Families can call that number. The ship is currently sailing under its own power and heading to port. Search and rescue efforts are underway in coordination with local authorities, in addition to tugboats out of Singapore, Republic of Singapore Navy Fearless class patrol ships, RSS Gallant, RSS Resilience, RSN helicopters, and Police Coast Guard vessel Basking Shark are currently in the area to render assistance. All those ships and U.S. MV-22s and SH-60s, Ospreys, and helicopters from the USS America are also responding. Lookner MC is a 600-foot oil and chemical tanker with a gross tonnage of 30,000 tons. Initial reports indicate the McCain sustained damage to the port side aft. The extent of damage and personnel injuries is currently being determined. The incident will be investigated. More information to follow. Guys, I need to take about a 45-second break. I'm going to leave this on the screen. Just give me 45 seconds and I'll be right back. I'll be right back for you. Thank you for your patience. I am back, and we are covering the story and trying to get more news updates. That was just posted. That update there was just posted by the U.S. Navy. Let me see what else I can find you here. And there's a real worry here with these 2 accidents in 2 months. Either there's something very wrong with the Navy, or we start getting into sabotage, hostile act. It just seems so unlikely that just 2 accidents like this could happen. Now, maybe there's just something institutionally wrong with the way they're training people or something, but, you know, even one of these is extremely unlikely. So 2 so close to each other in the same region, I don't know, guys. I just don't know. And as I said before, I am normally the one who's the last to say, oh, this was hostile act or sabotage or something. But it starts to get to the point where it gets highly improbable that it's an accident. Sorry, I'm just pouring more water here. Carl Peterson just made a donation and said, get some popcorn. Thank you, Carl. Very much appreciated. And I hope I've caught all your donations and thanked you for giving them. Thank you to the moderators again for moderating the YouTube chat. Okay, let me get some more updates, and I want to get to your messages. Write to me about what you're thinking about this at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner. I mean, to me, as I said, I think this is a crisis for the president. I think it's a crisis. Boog Rose says domestic enemy within. That's Boog Rose's thought on this. Let's see here. Oh, I Stand With Trump sent me a report on the USS Fitzgerald from 3 days ago. I'll have to look at that. Thank you. I hadn't seen that before. Thank you. Thank you I'm writing that down so I can read it later. That's from I Stand With Trump. I will check that out later about that report about the USS Fitzgerald. Just seeing if I can get some more information for you about this ship accident here. Unbelievable. David Fox says that Fox News is now covering the story. Finally, they've started covering it. What I would really like is an update on what's going on with the search and rescue. But I can't seem to find one. Now, Jim Sciutto said that there were 4 collisions by U.S. Navy ships in 1 year. He says there was on the Lake Champlain and the USS Louisiana. What's the Lake Champlain one? With a South Korean fishing vessel. So, sorry. I don't know if this has anything to do with anything or not, but I'll show it to you anyway. So in May, a cruiser collided with a South Korean fishing vessel that lacked radio GPS. Well, if the fishing vessel was small enough, I guess, you know, it's not the same as it was being hit by a, let's see, it says, visibility was limited. Lake Champlain hailed the fishing vessel through its bridge-to-bridge communications with no success and sounded its horn, but the collision was not avoided. Anyways, that's different, a little different than a tanker hitting it and killing sailors in the first case, and hopefully it didn't tonight, but we'll see. We're keeping an eye on that. But it did happen, so that's not good that happened. That was in May. And the USS Louisiana, in April, last year, they had an accident. Yeah, the Navy, In August, I guess, of last year, submarine Louisiana collided. Where? Near Washington's... Wait. A collision involving the ballistic missile submarine Louisiana and the submarine support vessel Eagle View. But that was with a submarine support vessel. That's bad that it collided, and that was near Washington State. That wasn't in the Pacific, though. Well, it's in the Pacific, but not in that Asian region of the Pacific. Anyways, so there might, I mean, but to me, it'd be one thing if there were just these crashes that happen once in a while, but they were different, but, you know, different kinds of crashes. But two destroyers getting hit by tankers within the span of 2 months and potentially many soldiers dying and being both hit in the crew berthing area, that's very worrying. Let me get you some more updates here. And sorry, I know, yeah, sometimes you send me a video, and but I don't know what's on the video, and I can't really during the broadcast watch the video to see what's on it, to see whether I should play it. So if you have a video and you send it me and you want me to show it on the air, please let me know what exactly is in the video and where I can find it there, because otherwise I'm just going to end up waiting till after the broadcast to check it out. Oh, and we ended the stream on Laguna Beach. I guess nothing was really happening there anymore. So so we're back here. Well, I'm here anyway. So, you know, at this point, like, I'm just going to stay on the air and cover this because I want to know what's going on with this. So I'm going to look. Hope you stay with me. But even if you don't, I'm going to stay on the air, and I'm going to, because I am so interested in this story, and I think it's a crazy story, and I think it's a crisis for the Navy, crisis for President Trump. It needs to be explained, and I want to know what's going on. And also we have a crisis because 10 sailors are missing right now. And there's really no new news. I mean, I'll go over what we also know so far, which is we saw some of the tweets we saw earlier that I tweeted out. Where is that one I saw? This one, where the crew of the destroyer John S. McCain is fighting flooding in 2 crew berthings where the crew sleeps and what's called Shaft Alley. That's where the propeller shaft is. But, like, the crew berthing is where the last ship got hit by the last tanker. Oh. I would really be interested if any of you have any knowledge about this. Some of you, a lot of you have written in already. I really appreciate it. But if you guys want to share your perspective, maybe you know something about ships or have worked on a ship, about what could be causing these 2 accidents. Unbelievable, so close to each other. Boo Grow says you can see the sailors on deck as ship is limping into port. I wonder if I can get you footage of that. Let me see. Give me a second here, guys. Let me see what I have for you, if I have anything for you. What's that there? Guys, I'm going to come back to me for a second. Just give me 1 second. I want to see if I can get any footage. Maybe there's being some footage of the ship actually going back into port that I am actually allowed to show you. So give me 2 seconds here, and let me see what I can find you. Maybe I don't have access to it. Maybe I can find. If you find any footage of it online or any photos online of the ship going back into port, I'd love to see them. Give me a shout on Twitter. Let me know. Boo Grow, you're saying oh, Fox is reporting on this, and they're saying 1,000 gallons of oil have also spilled. That's according to Boo Grow. I am not allowed to just show you Fox's feed though, so. Maybe they will tweet something out. Thank you, Boog, for letting me know that, though. Maybe I can find something about 1,000 gallons of oil. Here's the ship, by the way, the USS John McCain. It's weird. Fox is reporting the 1,000 gallons of oil thing, but no one has tweeted about it at all. Thank you, Lynn Jean, for sending out that tweet about the flooding. Yeah, I posted a similar tweet about to that before. Arlo Return says, many years in Navy. Collisions happen more than you think. Most you never hear about. It's a training issue that Navy needs to fix. That's from Arlo Return. He thinks it's a training issue. Stan Beham says, Evelina Rose forwarded me a tweet from Stan Beham, which says, concentrate on our missing and injured sailors. Give the president benefit of the doubt until he makes a statement. God be with our sailors. Brent Kitchen says, duty section on U.S. naval vessel is a small group of sailors and officers. It's possibly a snowflake section decided to resist the president. Annabelle Onion says, I still think it's probably sabotage, like some kind of computer virus or something. Let's see. Pete Tudsbury says, Steve, having the Liberia flag is convenient. They have lower standards. A few years ago, a cheating scandal broke, and you sent me a link. With Clinton and Obama, we were not building a strong anything, let alone a strong and capable Navy, although our best and most experienced people would be where these two collisions occurred. Maybe this is a combination of ingredients. The spy ring and Congress story won't be hidden after tomorrow. At the exact same time as the eclipse, now we have this huge destroyer being hit. The USS Fitzgerald occurred as far away as possible from the radioactive cargo dirty bomb in Charleston Harbor, which hardly anyone heard about on June 14th. One can only think that this is yet another intentional distraction. That's from our viewer P. Tudsbury. Let's see here. Babak sent me a gif of like meanwhile on CNN, and it shows two people like taking a bath. And he said, you're doing a great job. Thanks. Thank you, Babak. I think this, hold on one second. Yeah, this oil spill article that somebody sent me about an oil spill, that's from January. So that's, Copernica, that's from January. That's not tonight. SoCal Boho Girl said there was a video from Al Jazeera of the USS McCain collision. I have not seen any video yet. If you find any video like being tweeted out online that I can show, I can't just take Al Jazeera's feed. But if you find any video, let me know on Twitter, at Lookner, at Lookner. I'd really like to see some photos or video of this ship, of the accident. I would think soon we will, because I remember when we covered the USS Fitzgerald, after about an hour or so, we started seeing some photos and video. Let's see here. Dan Scavino tweeted about this. He gave some links where the updates for USS John McCain are available. Yeah, so the 1,000-gallon spill was, Edward Briley says the 1,000-gallon spill happened before, within the last year. It was a ship that ran aground across the coast of Japan. So that wasn't, from what I can tell, there was no oil spill tonight, as far as I'm aware. SoCal Boho Girl says, Captain of USS McCain is injured, stable, 3 airlifted from our ship. Where is this information coming from? People are sending me information. I don't know where you're getting it. I'd love to know. I'm looking at all my sources and I'm not getting this. And John, here, let me show you a tweet from John Schindler, guys, who I follow. Oops, that's not where I want to be. I want to be on my homepage. Here we go. He writes, amazingly rare. In the same waters, I have questions. That's from John Schindler. And I'm just checking here. CNN is still not covering this. CNN's still not covering it. I don't believe it. I thought they'd be covering it by now. Is MSNBC covering it? No, they're not. I'll see what Fox is. Sorry. So that's this tweet from John Schindler. Fox is not live on this either. Fox is not live. No one's live. If you like that we're live covering this really big story and no one else is, and you want to have more coverage, live coverage of events rather than watch the mainstream media show documentaries and stuff, please consider making a donation because we can only stay on the air thanks to your donations. So if you want to donate to Right Side Broadcasting, rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or go to the YouTube chat room next to the broadcast and click the $ sign at the bottom of the chat room. All right, I'm trying to get more information on this. And I know it's not going to come from the mainstream media because they're not even covering it. Reagan Better says John McCain released a tweet. Let me see if I can find John McCain's tweet. Here we go. John McCain said it. Thanks, Reagan Better. John McCain says, Cindy and I are keeping America's sailors aboard the USS John McCain in our prayers tonight. Appreciate the work of search and rescue crews. I'll retweet that. Annabelle Onion says, CNN will cover it as soon as they figure out how to tie racism to boats. I want more information on this. I'm also going to send out this tweet because I want to keep people informed. Sorry. Let me go back to my home page here. Where is it? I'll show you what I'm going to do right now. Hold on. We have U.S. 7th Fleet confirms 10 missing sailors. We saw that before. CNN and MSNBC still showing documentaries. Fox still showing, still not covering live as well. Just unbelievable to me that that's happening. But we're covering it live because it's incredibly important and newsworthy. Let's see. Al Jazeera is saying 3 people airlifted, including captain, according to SoCal Boho Girl. But I haven't heard that anywhere else, so I'll keep an eye out for it. Joe Medeiros just gave $2, said, thanks for your real news. Thanks, Adriana and Lucas. Thank you, Joe, very much. We appreciate the donation. I would love to hear from you guys what you think about this. What do you think is going on here? Let me know at Lookner, at Lookner. I'm looking around trying to get new details here. I hope I can get some more for you. Some photos. And thank you. Jeffrey Walker sent me a tweet from Lucas Tomlinson, but it says the same thing. 5 injured, 10 sailors missing from the USS John McCain. Also, there is an Oliver Holmes tweet which Jeffrey Walker sent me, which I want to show you. Hold on one second here, if I can find it. Where is it? This is how crowded the waters are around Singapore, where the USS destroyer USS John McCain collided with an oil tanker. However, I don't think that's an excuse. I'm not going to take that as an excuse. I remember last time I was thinking, oh, it was the waters were crowded, and that's why it happened. But from what I heard from experts, there's no way a tanker should run into a destroyer. There's no way they should collide like that. That's something this big here, 600 feet long, there, should hit a U.S. destroyer. Just no way. But it's weird, like, let me say this, though. If it's sabotage or hostile act, why would the U.S. Navy fire the 3 people in charge of the Fitzgerald? Wouldn't they be like, well, it's not their fault? You know, wouldn't they have done an investigation and figured out, oh, wait, like, the ship wasn't working right or something? So that's a problem with the sabotage hostile act theory. But then again, a problem with the 2 accidents theory is, how is it possible that 2 accidents so similar could happen like this in such a short amount of time? Mr. C4LLOW4Y, Mr. Calloway, I see, says, my grandfather served with the U.S. 7th Fleet, U.S. Navy during the Korean War. While you've done nothing to help veterans, John, at all. Oh, he was replying to John McCain's tweet and saying, my grandfather served with the U.S. 7th Fleet, U.S. Navy during the Korean War. While you've done nothing to help veterans, John, at all. That was Mr. Calloway responding to John McCain's tweet. David Fox says, you need to patch in Navy people with info via phone to fill in downtime. Well, David, we're very small here. We don't really have the technology. I don't really personally have the technology to do that. I guess they could call me on my phone, but I don't have a team of producers to help me wrangle people on the air because we are so small here. So it's really just me. So maybe one day we'll be able to afford. It's a great idea. I'd love to do it, but that's how small we are. Is we just do this. Like here, I'm just putting this all out myself. So we do the best we can with the little resources we have. It's a challenge just to stay on the air, but we want to stay on the air and report news events for you guys. So just know we don't have much money here, which is why we ask for donations. Just a reminder, Joe wanted to remind you guys that we are going to be having a live coverage of the solar eclipse tomorrow. And Joe just uploaded a new video of Trump arriving at the White House. One of my lights had a little bit of an issue. I hope you can still see me okay. I think you can. That looks fine. Okay. Strom voted proud comments, his comment on this, or her comment on this, is unbelievable, shameful. Frederick DeBoni sent me maybe old video. I don't know another source. Yeah, so I don't want to show it if I don't know if it's from today. Also, SoCal Boho Girl, you sent me a picture, but that looks like it could be the ship, the USS Fitzgerald. So I'm not sure that's from the McCain. Russ B says, Steve, has the president issued any sort of statement? From Russ. Thank you, Russ. The only thing I heard is that the president was shouted a question tonight about the soldiers, and he said it's something like it's too bad. I have it here. I can show you from Steve Herman. He had posted something about this, and I'll show it to you. In response to my question about the USS John McCain collision, President in White House South Portico replies, that's too bad. I don't know if he knew about it at the time when he was asked this. Tin Can Ton A gave $2 and said, DDG vet here, Strait of Malacca, busiest in the world. Thank you so much for the donation, Tin Can Ton A. Now, Joe sent me a link I'm going to check out. So give me 1 second here, guys, while I check out this link. Give me 1 sec, guys. Oh, thank you, Joe, for linking that story to me. I'd shown a couple of stories, Joe, so let's see if there's anything new in here. Yeah, and it's the story that Joe sent me. Talks about the how, in addition, as we mentioned before, there have been 4 incidents involving U.S. Navy warships based at Yoko. Actually, I didn't realize this. The McCain collision marks. Thanks, Joe, for sending this to me. The McCain collision marks the 4th incident involving a U.S. Navy warship based at Yokosuka this year. And Yokosuka is, I believe, a base. Does it say where Yokosuka is? I'll look it up. Is it a base? Oops, that's not what I want to do. It's a Japan, a city in Japan. So I assume that we have a base in Japan. Well, at least we have a base for some of our ships. The 4th incident involving a U.S. Navy warship based at Yokosuka this year. On June 17th, there was the USS Fitzgerald accident. On May 9th, there was the Lake Champlain being struck by a small fishing boat accident, which we talked about. And in late January, the USS Antietam ran aground while trying to anchor in Tokyo Bay. All 4 of the U.S. warships are equipped with the Aegis missile defense system, which has been touted as a possible defense against any North Korean missile launch that might endanger U.S. forces and U.S. allies in Asia. So, if you want to think of a theory about this, about why North Korea might want to do something to these ships, there's a theory. Although I don't know, having a fishing boat run into it, I don't know if it does much to it. But anyways, to me, these 2 accidents, these last 2, seem so similar and different than the others. They're very worrying to me. Wolf Moon Girl gave $10. Thank you, Wolf Moon Girl. And Sugary gave $10 and said, thanks, RSBN. My dad served on the USS Albany during Korean War. Super President Trump supporter. Thank you for the donations, guys. If you would like to donate and support us and keep us on the air, to give you live coverage when no one else is covering this in events like this, go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or in the YouTube chat room, just click on the $ at the bottom of the chat room. Also, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube so you can get notified whenever we go on the air for live news coverage, which we do all the time. And click the notifications bell when you subscribe to us. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at RSB Network, and I am on Twitter at Lookner, and I post lots of breaking news stuff if you like that kind of thing, at LOOKNER. And please message me if you have any thoughts or analysis you want to give on this destroyer collision. Let me see if I can find some updated news. Well, first of all, Trump the winner says the wreck of the destroyer McCain is prophetic. It signals the end or downfall of McCain. Senator McCain. Trump knows McCain is a traitor. Susan says, could someone have hacked their computer systems? I have no idea, Susan. Interesting question. John Briggs says, shocking. What is going on with the controllers on the ships? Technology should prevent contact from happening. I understand where you're coming from, John. Kerensky says, could it be that if the networks switch to live coverage, they can't air the commercials that were paid to air during program? Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some financial motivation like that, Kerensky. I just think if you're going to be a news channel and this giant news happens, that you should be committed to covering it. Bugro says Yokosuka is a base in Japan. Let's see if I can get any more actual information about this crash to you, this collision. Okay, some more. I have a picture. I have a picture from David Larder. Okay, hold on a second, guys. Let me get this on the air. I have a picture for you. Thank you, V.Honey, for the donation. Says, very proud of RSBN. Thank you, V.Honey. Okay, here's a picture, guys. A picture. Hey, Joe, if you're... forget it, Joe. Joe, if you're listening and you want to retweet any of my tweets I send out on the RSBN account, because some people might want to see them there, too. Here it is. Let me show it to you first. Then I'll retweet it. Here it is. The damage to McCain as extensive. Large hole visible at the waterline. McCain is riding low, but at first glance not as alarming as Fitzgerald. But it's alarming in the sense of that's big damage, and it could be we could have 10 sailors dead. So that's significant. So let me send this out real quick. Photo of damage of USS Fitzgerald. McCain, I'm sorry, USS McCain. So there's a photo. Look at that huge gash. Now, David Larder, who's a smart guy and writes for, I think, some defense publication at this point. Is it Defense News or something? Anyways, you can look him up, David Larder. But he says this is at first glance not alarming as Fitz, but he does say extensive large hole visible at the waterline. And supposedly they're trying to. We have 10 soldiers missing, and they're trying to get water out of. They're getting flooding in 2 crew berths. So, unfortunately, it seems like maybe the hole is where crew members sleep. Beamer Boy just donated $20 Canadian, said, have a drink on me, Steve. Thank you, Beamer Boy. I'm going to put that towards our network staying on the air so we can cover more news stories like this. We appreciate it. Okay, so that's from David Larder. And he also posted, the chief of Singapore's Navy tweeted out the location of the incident. Let's see what this says. It's hard for me to read that map, guys. If you can read a Navy map, there it is. But it's the Malaysia Navy chief. That's who tweeted it out. So let me show this photo again. Ugh, not good. Not good at all. You can see a big giant gash in the left side of the ship there. Take 1 second. Here. What else did David Larder say? Let me just see if I can find. Let me leave that picture up there so you can look at it while I look for new information. Okay, I don't think he has anything new up there, but we'll keep an eye on his feed. Logan Haight writes in, at US Navy Lover, says, there is no way this could happen naturally. The helmsman would have easily been able to see the other ship from the bridge. And you know, a lot of people were saying that, thank you Logan, about the first accident. How could this have possibly happened? So the fact that 2 of these similar accidents, like with holes somewhat in similar places. Let me show the USS Fitzgerald. You know, let me get a picture of the USS Fitzgerald up and see that. Let's see what the detail was on the damage was on that one. We can compare, guys. Now, the USS Fitzgerald, it had damage below the waterline in addition to above. Here's a picture of it. So, but the thing is, it got hit also below the waterline on the side. So it is similar in that, you know, that's the USS Fitzgerald, and here's the USS McCain. It seems like in both cases, maybe what happened is, I know in the first case this happened, is you have like a T where the tanker like T-bones the destroyer. How does that happen? Let's see here. Irredeemable Tie says, this typical mainstream media, this is why I follow you guys, real news. Thank you, typical Irredeemable Tie. Ryan Sullivan saying, Finding it strange that USS John McCain has stopped trending in favor of Singapore. Someone sent us a live, Virginia Mother Nature sent us a live camera of a rally in Laguna Beach. We already showed some stuff of Laguna Beach. Joe's keeping an eye on it, so if he finds interesting streams, he'll put them back on the air. Let's see here. Thank you. I see this. Joseph DeLuca, I see your tweet you sent me. Thank you. Oh, Fox is live on the ship now? Fox is actually showing the ship? Let's see. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me see if I can get you a feed. Fox is actually covering this live now. Okay. Give me 1 sec, guys. They finally started covering it. Can you believe it? Did CNN start covering it yet? No, CNN is showing the history of comedy, guys. That's what they're showing, the history of comedy. I want to tweet that out, too. We just got a tweet from Joe. A text from Joe Biggs. You know, we'd asked Joe Biggs if he wanted to do an interview yesterday during the free speech rally in Boston, and he just tweeted us that, texted us that he was sorry he couldn't. He said he was busy and the signal was terrible there. I don't think I can get you footage yet of this ship. I'd like to get it for you. They don't have footage of it though on Fox. They just have a still picture, a still photo of the ship. All right, let's see if I can get you new news. You know, it's weird. On Fox, they're saying collision marks fourth incident involving U.S. Navy ships in the Pacific this year. And I understand it's the fourth incident in the Pacific this year. But I don't know. I feel like maybe the more significant number is the second incident in 2 months of this exact same type of incident. Now, maybe they're both really significant, but it's very worrying. And this is Right Side Broadcasting, by the way, and we're covering this for you. Kerensky says, Steve, I wouldn't be surprised if the technology on these destroyers is as outdated and as Trump says the Air Force is using, the Air Force is using. I read that wrong. I think there's a little typo there, but Kerensky says, Steve, I wouldn't be surprised if the technology on these destroyers is as outdated as Trump says the Air Force is using. Annabelle Onion says, CNN is a comedy of errors. I really need to tweet out that CNN is still showing... CNN is showing... Here, I'll show you what I'm tweeting out, because I'm so upset. CNN is now showing the history of comedy. Now, is Fox not live anymore? Kalilu says Fox News was live at 10. No, they're live right now. He says the second time they broke in now, and now they break in live, just for the record. Yeah, I know. Somebody reported in, and I said it on the air, they broke in for a little bit. But, you know, it's just, to me, you got to cover it live. You know, breaking in for 30 seconds doesn't count as live coverage. Logan Haight says, the only way I could see this happening is failure of the radar. Sorry, I don't know why I have that on the screen, guys. I apologize. Hold on. Let me get the... That's what I wanted on the screen. This. Logan Haight says, the only way I could see this happening is failure of the radar, failure of the bridge crew, and failure of the watch. If you ask me, that is too much of a coincidence to be plausible. And Logan, how about it happening like that twice, and the second time 3 days after 3 people were fired. The 3 people running the first ship were fired for it. I mean, come on. Strom Voted Proud says, thank you for keeping us updated. Blessings. If you have comments, write to me. If you have any theories on why this happened or any knowledge of ships or just any thoughts, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. And also, if you like our coverage of this and like that, we've been covering it all night, unlike none of the mainstream media has been covering it all night like we have. Fox just started covering it live. CNN's still showing documentaries. If you like that we're covering it, please consider making a donation because we rely on your donations to stay on the air. That's why we can do this. So if you'd like to donate, go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or go to the YouTube chat room. In the bottom of the chat room, there's a $sign. You can click on that $sign. And don't forget, subscribe to Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube so you get notified whenever we have a live breaking news video like this, and click the notifications bell when you subscribe. Patriotus Pro Vida, the crew is fighting flooding. We already showed a tweet about that. So yes, the crew is fighting flooding. Nikki Haley sent out a tweet. Let me show you that. Nikki Haley says, UN Ambassador, prayers going up for our sailors injured and missing on USS John McCain. Prayers, America's, prayers, America's finest. I would love to have more information on this, guys. It's such a big story. And Lucas Tomlinson tweeted out, and I'll just show you this. If I can find it, I'll show it to you. I follow him. Navy officials say 5 injured aboard USS John McCain are minor. That's good. That's good to know. But 10 other sailors still remain missing. So the good news is that the 5 injuries are minor, but the very bad news is 10 sailors still remain missing. It's not looking good. That's really sad. So here's that again. Oops, sorry. I updated that, I thought. This one here. And he tweeted out something else too. Fourth mishap in Pacific since February. U.S. Antietam dumped oil Tokyo Bay. USS Lake Champlain had fishing boat in May. Fitzgerald June. Now McCain. Cookie Jar Money, thank you for sending me a link to Fox News' live coverage, but I'm not allowed to show Fox News' live coverage. They own their live coverage, so I can't just put it on the screen. We can't do that. David Chrysopraise says technology is fragile. Harold Chernovsky says, I'm in Toronto and watching you. CNN is no joke. Kerensky says, Fox News is airing over-the-phone comments by officials and showing photos of the destroyer and a map of Malaysia with a collision spot. David Fox says, Trump just landed in D.C. Joker on Parade says they only show news that they can blame on the president. Matthew Martin says, I wonder if somebody is using some new weapon against our ships, like they are jamming our navigation. It's a good question. Certainly reasonable to at least ask the question. This is interesting, guys. From David Larder. Check this out. Who writes for Defense News. Look what he says. Ooh. David Larder says, it's important to note a cyber attack on the ship's navigation system would not account for this. It was broad daylight. So he thinks it couldn't be a cyber attack on the ship's navigation system. I want to hold on a second. Let me just get that up a little higher so you can see it. Okay, good. There's that. There's that. There's that. That's that tweet. James McDonald says the John McCain was sent over there to replace that other ship because they're the only two ships in the world that can track an ICBM in space and shoot them down. I am not sure of that, James. I don't know that for a fact, but thank you for writing in. See something. I'm interested in knowing if it did replace the Fitzgerald. I'm not seeing anything about the McCain replacing the Fitzgerald. So if somebody finds something about that, please send me a link. I would be interested in knowing that. Here's another tweet. Here's another tweet from David Larder. I'll let you look at this. He says, unless McCain was dead in the water, which it isn't, a cyber attack wouldn't account for it. Sailors know how to drive a ship without GPS. So that's what David Larder says. David Fox says, is it possible a navigation hack like they do with drones and car computers to take them subtly over? I have no idea. I have no idea, David. MMXVII says, Al Jazeera minutes ago reported on the incident. Strom voted says, how in the world does this keep happening? For God's sakes. Good question, Strom voted. Patrick Davey says, speculation is cancerous. Don't do it, but keep up the good work. This can happen more easily than you would think. Look, I didn't say this happened because of this or this. I think it's reasonable when you're talking about events to think about what are the possible ways it could have happened. I've said I'm not an expert. I just think it's reasonable to suppose. So, but I'm not. I certainly don't claim to know why it happened. Let's see here. Trump the winner says these were not accidents. Every ship has a fantail or stern watch and a bridge watch. This was not problems with technology. It's just hard because it's so hard to think that like this was sabotage or like a hostile actor. It just seems so unlikely. But at the same time, it seems so unlikely for reasons like this, that you have like a watch out there and stuff, and it's a crazy giant big ship which runs into it, the destroyer. It's there's problems with it being both an accident and it not being an accident. There's problems with both of those hypotheses. So that's the real difficult thing. Tom L says, someone needs to get over to the 7th Fleet and start kicking some butts. Here's another tweet. Let me show you this one. From David Larder. David Larder does not think it was a cyber attack. He keeps saying things like this. He says, some speculation that this is a cyber attack on the GBS system. That would be a very poor excuse. I guess he's saying because sailors know how to drive a ship without GPS. So he's saying it would be a very poor excuse to blame it on the GPS. But I don't know if there are other systems that could be involved. Brian says, CBC News, we are covering this in Canada. Thanks, Brian. Let me show you a tweet from John Schindler here. John Schindler says, America's peace and prosperity are dependent on the Navy, as is much of the world's, so its major dysfunctions impact us all, really. It looks like we have some pictures from the search and rescue, which I'll show you. See if I can get these on the screen. This is Chief of Navy PTL. This is, I don't know for sure. But I think this might be pictures of the search and rescue operation. I'm not sure. What is Chief of Navy PTL? Of Singapore? Of Malaysia? I can't tell. I can't verify this. It's not verified. It's not a verified account. But maybe that's pictures from the search and rescue. Copernica says, what could interfere with steering control or speed? If it's sabotage, mechanical failure, that's where to look. So I certainly understand that, Copernica. It's so weird, though. It's like, how could this happen twice? How could it happen a second time right after it just happened 2 months ago and 3 people were fired for it? How could that happen? I just don't understand that. All right, so we're going to stay on the air a little longer here. There's a bit of an issue, which is I have to get up really early tomorrow because I am going to Phoenix to cover President Trump's rally for Right Side Broadcasting. So unfortunately, I might not be able to stay up as late and do this as I would like to normally. But I'll stay on the air a little while longer. If you have comments you want to send in or theories or responses to what happened tonight, let me know. Or you see new information on Twitter about this or something, or on the web, write to me at Lookner on Twitter, at LOOKNER. Also, subscribe to Right Side Broadcasting on YouTube. Click the notifications bell so you get informed whenever we go on the air with a live news video like this. Also, thanks to the moderators so much in the chat room tonight who've been working so hard. Chris and Real Frank are there. JC's there. I think Lynn Jean was there, Real Frank, and all of them. Ron Miller. And if you like our coverage, if you like the fact that we've been all night covering this when CNN and like MSNBC hasn't been covering it at all, and Fox went on a bit but really late, please consider making a donation because Your donations allow us to be on the air and bring you an alternative to the mainstream media and bring you live coverage of events like this. So if you'd like to donate, go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or click on the $sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat room. And you can follow Right Side Broadcasting on Twitter at RSB Network. And you can follow me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. I post lots of breaking news stuff all the time. This is an important tweet from Steve Herman. This is what I was saying before. So some people were being critical of President Trump because he responded to a question shouted at him. Steve Herman shouted him a question, hey, what about the sailors? And he said something like, that's too bad. But I said, maybe some people were saying, well, that's really insensitive way for him to answer the question. But I was saying maybe he didn't know at the time what really had happened, and he was just hearing it for the first time. And so Steve Herman says, this tweet right here. Unclear whether the president had been informed of missing and injured sailors when he responded. Media wasn't aware of that info at the time. So it's entirely possible the president didn't know sailors were missing when he was shouted that question. He said, that's too bad. JC says, Steve, where did the cargo ship originate from? It is flying under a Liberian flag. I don't know what its path was, where it was going to, or delivering to, or sailing, or do they call it sailing when it's not really sailing? Do they? Can you say a tanker is sailing somewhere even though it's not sailing? I don't know how the word is used. When it was traveling on the seas. Maybe they call it sailing. But I don't know. I just know it had a Liberian flag, but that doesn't... from what I've heard, I know sometimes with ships, the flag doesn't tell you the flag doesn't mean it's all Liberian people on the ship. So somebody wrote us in about that before. So I don't have that information right now. Oh, SoCal Boho Girl says PTL equals patrol. Thank you, SoCal Boho Girl. A couple people tweeted me about a bomb scare in Mooney Ponds, so I'll let you know if you hear anything more about it. That's in Australia. Can I find any more information about this here? I will be on for a few more minutes. Unfortunately, I can't stay on as long as I'd like to just because I haven't even packed yet for tomorrow, and I gotta wake up early tomorrow morning and travel to Phoenix to cover the president's rally. Randy J. Walker says, it will be mechanical and human error, have to wait for more info. Hold on one sec, guys. I just want to do one thing here real quick. Give me 1 second. Kerensky says the tanker's crew could be drunk Ukrainians for all I care. Exposed Z Wolf says the liberals are already eating up the president saying that's too bad to the reporter's shouted question. I don't think he had been informed yet, probably thought he meant the vote. possible he just thought, he didn't know about the missing sailors, and he thought like a ship collided and there was some damage to the ship, and he said that's too bad. So, I wouldn't judge him yet before we know what he knew at the time. Yes, Cookie Jar Money, thanks for that information. We've already reported that the ship that ran into, we reported earlier, the ship that ran into that collided with the USS John McCain is this one right here, the Alnick MC. It's an oil chemical tanker with a Liberian flag. Trump the winner says, try to find out who was on stern watch or on the bridge and get them to talk. This was not human error or mechanical error. DJ says he knew details minutes after it happened. He's the president, for God's sake. So there's this question. Look, I could see somebody saying what DJ said, which is that, hey, he's the president, so he should have known sailors were missing. But he might have known there's been an accident, but didn't know sailors were missing. So I'm just saying, before we judge him about what he said. Brian Head says, Steve, you do a great job on YouTube with your real, true, on the fly as it happens news reporting. Enjoy Phoenix, and by the way, I'm a Beamer boy. I don't know what a Beamer boy is. Dare I look it up? But thank you, Brian. All right, I really would like to get some more. I was hoping to get some more information, some video of the ship, not this ship. I mean, I'd take video of that ship, but video of the USS John McCain. I'd like to get video of that. And hold on one second, I want to retweet this. Oh, I already did retweet it. I'd love to get video of the ship. We saw a photo before of the damage. I'll show you the photo of the damage. And just more information I'd like about, what's in, most importantly, the missing sailors. I really would like to get some information about them. I hope it's good and not bad, but we'll see. Let me, hold on. Where am I going? I want to show you the damaged ship, the photo of the damaged ship. Here it is. Big gash in the ship there, below the waterline too. Just unfortunately, I'm not able right now to get you any more information on the actual ship. It is slow in coming, but I'm trying to. Tweet from Sarah Sanders here. Oh, look, this is interesting. I'm retweeting this. David Larder first said, let me just show you right here. If you look at David Larder right here, he first said, it's important to note a cyber attack on the ship's navigation system would not account for this. It was broad daylight. But then he says, it was still dark when the accident occurred. It was still dark when the accident occurred. That's important, maybe? It was still dark when the accident occurred. So maybe they were driving the ship, not by sight, but by computer control or whatever. So I don't know. Does that affect anything? Still dark while it occurred. See, all the media is tweeting out this tweet here. The media, this guy's from CNN, and I like him. It says, when President arrived at White House, reporter shouted a question about the incident. President heard responding, that's too bad, that's too bad. But the guy who reported on this is saying the president might not have known about the missing sailors when I asked him. So I'm going to respond to Will Ripley on CNN, and I'm going to respond with that. I'll show you what I'm going to do. Because the media keeps blaming President Trump for saying this, and the original guy who asked him the question is Steve Herman, and Steve Herman himself said, look, unclear whether President had been informed of missing and injured sailors when he responded. Media wasn't aware of that info at the time. So I'm going to reply to Will Ripley on Twitter and say this. Hey, you should know that this guy... Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. And I like Will Ripley, but still... See? He said the thing about when President arrived at White House, reporters shouted the question about the incident. But can you see it? I'll remove this. I posted in response, my reply. Well, anyways, you can't see it. But the reply I posted was that the original reporter the White House reporter who shouted this afterwards posted, hey, I don't know if he knew about the missing sailors at the time. See, there it is. There it is. That's what I did. I responded to Will Ripley just by saying that because I don't think we should judge the president until we know whether he knew about whether the sailors were missing or not. That's all I'm saying. Okay, what was I doing here? I'm trying to get you more information. Forget my tweets. I'm trying to get you more information about the ship. And I want to get you... But remember, this was an interesting tweet that I just saw. Oh, President Trump just tweeted. President Trump just tweeted, I think. New tweet from President Trump. Thoughts and prayers are with our U.S. Navy sailors aboard the USS John McCain, where search and rescue efforts are underway. The president tweets. Just sent out, or I'll just say president's tweet about USS John S. McCain collision. There it is. I'll show you again. Thoughts and prayers about are with our Navy, U.S. Navy sailors aboard the USS John McCain, where search and rescue efforts are underway. Now, to Brian Stelter of CNN's credit, Brian Stelter just tweeted this out, and I want to show you this. That's too bad is getting a lot of pickup tonight. So I looked at the timeline. As Maggie said, it's possible Trump hadn't been briefed. Also, isn't the bigger worry, rather than taking something the president said offhand and blaming him for it, isn't the biggest worry, how does this happen and what's going on with the Navy and these ships and these accidents that we might have another accident tonight where sailors getting killed? Isn't that the more important thing? Get ready for CNN tomorrow to focus on the "that's too bad" comment and not on the sailors actually getting killed. Hopefully they don't get killed, but on the accident. And we already know sailors are injured. Thank you, Jim and Jeffrey Walker, for both sending me the president's tweet. JC says, message to trolls, hey, if you want Trump to go away, stare at the eclipse. It will change your life. That's from our moderator, JC. Thanks to all the moderators for all your great work in the YouTube chat room. Spoogro says, Steve, let me remind you, President Trump will not make a public statement until he has further facts as mentioned in his last presser. Thank you. Brian N. says, Steve, wouldn't President Trump have been briefed aboard Air Force One en route to the White House? Well, the thing I don't know is, maybe he could have been briefed on the collision, but they didn't know the sailors were missing, or maybe he wasn't told that, so it's just hard to say. Ken Nichols says, really? They don't even know who's missing yet, so how could he know? You pukes have never served and have no idea how the chain of command works. Trump the winner says, what is wrong with that's too bad? What other words do they want? Yeeg. Copernicus says, what angle is that it's the other ship that had a malfunction or deliberately rammed our ship? Kalilu FR says, doesn't our army have to shoot any ship that comes that close? How can this happen? I think it's a good question he asks about, don't they have to shoot any ship that come that close? How can you let a ship come that close to your own ship? Oh, it looks like we have a photo of the tanker here. This was sent to me by Frederick DeBoni. Let me get you this photo of the tanker up. Let me show it to you. If I can find Frederick's, what he sent me. Where is it, Frederick? It's down here somewhere. Actually, let me do this. Give me 1 second, guys. And I'll find it for you. Supposedly, this is a photo of the ship today. I don't know for a fact that it's that, but that is, it does say the Alnick MC, and we have a picture. We have a page for the Alnick MC, which is here. But here's a shot, supposedly maybe, of it today. How does that run into our destroyer, really? Strong Voted Proud says, you're absolutely right. The most important thing is making sure our sailors are okay. Thank you. Frederick DeBoni said, did you see an AIS tank of the tracker yet? I did not. AIS track of the tanker yet. Is there like a ship tracking site? Let me look up here. Where I could look this up. This is the Alnick MC. I wonder if they have their actual track. I mean, I saw a position of the ship. Let's see. I'm looking at this page and seeing if it tells us anything. The ship right now is near Singapore, but I'm not seeing any kind of tracking info about where it was at a certain time. Hold on, I'm looking. I'm trying to get you this. Oh, I guess, well, I can't do it right now. I guess I'm not a member or whatever. Okay, that's the tanker. Let me get that off the screen. JC tweeted at POTUS, I feel this is no accident. It seems they are forcing the USA into conflict. I am an American combat vet. I, as an American combat vet, says hit him where it hurts. Logan Haight says, if this event doesn't spark a major investigation, you can be sure some level of foul play is involved. So a couple more tweets from David Larder I want to show you. Hold on. He says, to correct, it was still dark. Still, unless the radars were broken and the handheld GPS was denied and it was low visibility, not likely. So Jeff up here, Jeff Zizulowitz says, my colleague questions the GBS cyber speculation coursing online. And he says, still, unless the radars were broken and the handheld GPS was denied and it was low visibility, not likely. I'm going to retweet this. Because some people online are speculating it could have been something wrong with the something kind of wrong, some kind of malicious attack on their GPS system or something. And he says they had radar and handheld GPS. And he said unless that was broken and the handheld GPS and it was low visibility, he's saying unless all those things happen, you have radar broken, handheld GPS broken, and low visibility, it's not likely that you could just make a ship run, like get hit by another ship just by messing up its GPS. That's what he's saying there. Let's see. What is this here? Here's one. Chance a foreign actor could have taken control of the ship from the sailors on board. Are there manual controls that override the computers? Almost everything is redundant, and he says almost everything is redundant on a Navy ship, and you can manually steer the ship from aft steering. Is there a possibility, though, that like they couldn't, if it was dark, they couldn't tell that they were off course or something? I don't know about this. I'm just wondering. So David Lauder doesn't seem to think there was some kind of cyber attack on the ship. That's what he thinks. Here's a tweet saying it was still dark. Thank you, Patriotus Pro Vita. I saw that position too. Miss Prim says media are now such scumbags. Seriously, outrageous, picking apart minute by minute. Okay, guys. Unfortunately, let me just see this. Oh, and Steve Herman, who was the one who asked the president about, about the collision, and the president said, that's too bad. He also just posted, I asked the president about the ship collision at 2034 EDT. That was nearly 30 minutes prior to the U.S. Navy updated statement. So the U.S. Navy didn't release a statement saying 10 missing until half an hour after Steve Herman asked the president about it. Let's see here. Trump the winner says Stern Watch has night vision and the Stern Watch knows what happened. It was not radar. It was a failure to attack. Edward Briley says, I'm telling you, these ships are over 20 years old and they must be having engineering problems. Patriotus Pro Vita says more current data from the ship tracking site I was looking at cost more than $40,000. Copernica says the Alnick stopped reporting 4 hours 13 minutes ago per marinetraffic.com, so it's stuck likely near where the collision was. Edward Briley says these ships have state-of-the-art engineering systems, engine problems or steering problems. He says these ships have state-of-the-art engineering systems, engine problems or steering problems has to be the cause. That's according to Edward Briley. Okay, unfortunately, I'd like to stay on longer. I have to get off the air now because I have to pack and prepare. I got to wake up really early tomorrow to go to Phoenix tomorrow because we're covering President Trump's rally in Phoenix on Tuesday. We'll have all-day coverage of that. Tomorrow, also, Right Side will be covering the solar eclipse, and also tomorrow night we'll be covering President Trump's address to the nation about Afghanistan, which I assume will still be happening, although I questioned before if it turns out they don't find these soldiers, and I really hope they do. But these sailors, if they don't find these sailors, will this still go on tomorrow as planned, this speech? I don't know, but our thoughts are and our prayers at Right Side are with the missing sailors and the injured sailors and anybody else who was hurt by this terrible accident, and we just really hope this gets straightened out because it's really worrying what's going on here with these two crashes so close to each other, these two similar crashes. So again, we've been here, this has been Right Side Broadcasting. We have been covering the crash of the USS John S. McCain with a large tanker near Singapore, and 10 U.S. soldiers are missing, and that's very, very, very worrying. So We will, if I find out news later tonight about this while I'm packing, I will tweet it out. So follow me on Twitter to know about that. At Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner. Be sure to follow Right Side Broadcasting too, at RSB Network. And subscribe to us on YouTube so you can find out whenever we do more videos like this. We go live with breaking news on the air. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the notifications bell. Thank you so much to the chat moderators tonight and also to everybody who donated. We really appreciate it. Your donations let us come on the air like this and give you live coverage of a very important event when the mainstream media wasn't really covering it live at all. I don't know if CNN ever covered it live all night, or MSNBC. So, hold on one second. So we will come on the air more if there's breaking news. This is Right Side Broadcasting. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all of your comments and also for all of you sending me links and all that stuff and helping us cover this event tonight. Again, we just hope we hope they find the sailors. We hope this huge issue gets figured out, and we'll see what happens. But for now, this is Steve Lookner with Right Side Broadcasting, and I wish you a good night. And I'll be seeing you on the air tomorrow. We're going to be doing a live stream tomorrow night from Phoenix, and a lot of stuff coming at you from Right Side. But again, our thoughts and prayers are with the sailors and everybody affected by this terrible accident tonight. So that's it for now. This is Right Side Broadcasting. I'm Steve Lookner. Have a great rest of your evening.